Hey everyone, it's Wednesday, time for Wisdom Wednesday. Hope you all are doing well. Since it's summer and lots of folks are traveling, I know that a lot of you are struggling with how to stay healthy while you're traveling, and I thought I would kind of walk you through some tips and some ways that you might think about how you want to set up your travel plan to still feel well, especially if you're flying lots of hours or driving lots of hours, how you can maintain your weight, and how you can have enough energy to get through trips and come back and still not feel just totally wiped out when you travel. So let's look at this real quickly. We're going to talk about how to plan ahead and ways that you can optimize trips while either flying or driving, ways that you can eat well and still not find yourself having to just deny yourself, but also not coming back with having 5 or 10 pounds to have to try to get off when you get back. Obviously, it's important to try to continue with some type of exercise routine, although it's going to be somewhat different because you likely won't find yourself in a similarly equipped gym or even a gym at all. And then, of course, optimizing sleep. So let's kind of walk through this. It's not overwhelmingly cumbersome or difficult to try to walk through, but I thought it might be helpful for many of you to just think about this prior to your travel, besides just worrying about what you're going to pack and what you're going to do when you get to your destination. So planning ahead, particularly if you're flying, what's important is to make sure that you have in mind what you want to do as far as nutrition. If you have a long flight in particular, really important to try to avoid a lot of things on planes. And I'll kind of walk through that when we get to the mode of transportation. But snacking, if you're going to have any types of snack, it's important. The airports are just full of carbohydrates and processed things. So having nuts or any particular protein bars that are edible and helpful would be good. Making sure that you provide yourself with plenty of fluids, that you plan how you intend to rest, whether you need to have a travel pillow or not, and then having some noise canceling type of headphones can be very helpful, particularly on a plane as well. So when you are driving, we don't worry too much about sound as much, but certainly staying hydrated, stopping frequently to stretch your legs can be very important. And if you tend to have issues with having a history of a blood clot or swelling when you fly or drive, then wearing compression can be very helpful. And now with flying, we know that the airplanes have a lot of EMFs, that can be quite a problem for many people, lots of toxins. The water, I would not do any hot beverages on a plane. They don't tend to clean out the storage facilities for the water. So I would take my own coffee if you have that luxury to get something in the airport. If you're going to have a hot beverage, just make sure that whatever water you drink is from a can or a bottle. And one of the things that can be helpful for detoxification is just a little combination of chlorella and spirulina. These are just plant-based supplements that can really help with detoxification. A lot of pilots use this for all of the environmental type issues that are concerned. And you can also use a type of mask that is a charcoal filtered type mask, particularly when you're taking off and landing, when you might be exposed to fuel fumes as well. So that's another option, even though we don't really are not required to wear masks anymore. But things to think about. And I've talked about earthing. When you, after a long flight, if you get to your destination, you can take your shoes off and go walk in the grass and just sort of allow for electrons to dissipate off into the surface of the earth. Can be very helpful. There, you might, if you're interested, you might want to read about earthing. There might be something that is beneficial, especially if you struggle with time changes and time zone changes. That can be helpful. And there are also protocols using melatonin that can be utilized for folks if you're changing significantly a number of time zones. So you might want to Google the use of melatonin prior to travel. You start, first of all, changing your sleep a little bit, your hours of when you go to sleep, and start trying to move to the new time zone. And once you get there, you stick with that type of schedule as far as sleep is concerned. Next, you want to think about how you want to manage your nutritional program. Certainly when we travel, we want to be able to have some freedom to enjoy the foods of our destination and have the ability to have a good time and not have to think so much about it. But let's be honest, it's really easy to go off the rails. So decide, you might want to consider doing more fasting. You don't have to eat 3 meals a day, and certainly when you get to hotels, most of those breakfast bars are just carb-laden type spreads and not really going to provide a lot of health benefits for you. So you might want to just have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and forego breakfast in those instances in particular, and allow yourself to do a little bit longer fasting. And then, you don't have to have 2 to 3 large meals every day. You might just look at the day ahead and pick one meal and let that be your major meal, and have smaller meals that are really not going to affect your body composition significantly. It's also important to make sure that you can go to restaurants where you can find food that you can eat. And then lastly, I think it's important to try to either make a choice whether you're going to have an alcoholic beverage and or dessert, one or the other. I would not probably have you do both if you're really trying to be mindful and keep your weight in control. It's not that you can't have either one, but just pick one per meal and let that be what you choose to do. As far as exercise goes, a lot of travel involves walking, which is great, but it still doesn't hurt to do some muscle work, and providing workouts can be very helpful. I know when I travel, I'm a morning dove and my husband is a night owl, so I often have an hour or two each morning, and I can go out and walk, or I can go to a hotel gym and I can get my workout in. We traveled this past weekend and I just went to the pool and swam laps for an hour. Different things that you can do just to provide yourself with exercise that is easy to do prior to doing a lot of sightseeing or any other things that you have going on with your trips. That's not always possible, but certainly is something that you could do. Set yourself up to maybe wake up a little bit early and even do a 20 or 30-minute routine. I also will travel sometimes with bands and can do a lot of muscle work, whether I do an upper body or lower body. I can do workout with bands, or you can take a mat with you and do some yoga, or certainly with our phones, we have the opportunity to use different types of exercise routines just using our phone, and a lot of these can be done just in a hotel room. And lastly, you want to set yourself up for a great sleep. So draw the curtains, cool the room down, cover up any types of lights that might disrupt your sleep. And if you need to, you can put towels near bed, the bottom of doors, so that light doesn't creep in. But just to get a good night's sleep, just avoid light. And then cooling the room can be very helpful, because we're sleeping in places where we don't normally sleep and we're out of our routine. Many people use night masks, and that can be helpful. So getting an optimal sleep is really important. As you can see, there's ways to travel and still come home and still feel well, get back into your routine without having to come back and either just sleep it off for days and days on end to recover. Sometimes when we travel, especially with vacations, we need to have a vacation from our vacation. So I would encourage you to think about these things prior to travel just as much as you would think about what you're going to pack and what you're going to do and what you're going to see. Hope you all have a very safe summer, and we will talk again next week. Happy Wednesday.